Hey, Bill, how are you doing today?
Not too bad, Ran. Head's a little bit cold, but other than that, I'm all right. I'm all right.
Yeah, well, you do have your winter cut, which
I do, yeah, the smartest
which you're
move
still, yeah,
ever.
yeah, it's not, it's very bold to put the top down on the convertible during the winter, but power to you. If they swing that big, I'm not going to step in your way. That's some energy that I'm not going to question. I know my role. I know when to back away. Well, thanks, Bill, for jumping on. Baby alert. Baby's still waiting on the baby.
Yes. That's about all I can say because it's been doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment for
Oof.
he's fine, he's healthy. It's no worries. I won't bore you with the details, but the too long didn't read is that it could be any minute and it could also be in 3 weeks' time. So who knows?
Oof. Okay. Well, soon to be proud daddy of a little boy, Bill Long, gracing us with his presence again. And it looks like we have SJ joining us. Um, I feel like I'm commentating on a race or something. SJ coming up in third. She looks to have pulled into a position of video, might not have audio quite yet. SJ, if you can hear us, give us a thumbs up. No, she can't. So we'll proceed on. All
That's
right.
not a good sign.
Yeah. So, anybody that is tuning in right now for the first time, what we do is look at opposing teams from a Wrexham perspective. We have great and wonderful Wrexham experts, lifelong fans like Bill himself, the resident co-host, and we also sometimes get some good guests like Robbo or Mia or Mark or Bryn or Dopey and Donner and Blixen, all of those. But thank you guys for joining in today. Hopefully, we'll give you some knowledge that you don't know, some background about some rivalries or lack thereof rivalries, and some players to look out for. And if there is any storied history between the two. That being said, guys, I wanted to play another game
Let's do it.
like we did last time, a good guess the player game. I don't have a name for this besides guessing who the player is. It's a current player. I decided to change the rules a little bit from last time, since if you had a guess after every round, you could just like hangman style it. You could quickly eliminate everybody and know who it was. And
Yeah.
so just to make the questions a little bit better, SJ, I'll be asking questions about a particular player. They start off hard and they get easier as they go on. For this one, withhold your guesses until you're sure. So if you don't know after the first hint, just wait for the next hint and we'll keep going and then take your guess. If we're counting the first game, the record is 3 rounds. Maybe we don't count that. I did get to play this with Robbo, with Neil. I'll give the same exact hints. Anybody confused on the rules? Because I am.
No, I
No,
don't think I get it.
no, we're good.
Wait,
Okay.
wait to guess. That's what I got out of that. Wait to
Yeah,
guess.
if you're ready to guess, that's your one guess, and then you're done. So if you guess prematurely, you don't get a second chance. You are laughed. You're never invited back on here again.
I mean, I've heard that.
Well, until next time, and then come back on. But yeah, we'll play tough while we're here. All right, so we're gonna play Wrexham. Guess who? Who is this current Wrexham player? We'll start off. It's not easy. I'm sorry, guys, but this player began his journey at a young age. Joining the academy of a well-known English club at 9 years old.
Elliot Lee.
What? You're out of the competition if you. Or were you taking a massive
I'm taking a
massive guess?
punt. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the game will continue.
The reason I say that is because he played for West Ham, and as soon as you said well-known club, I thought, "Ooh, that's worth a go." Never mind, I lose.
What I imagine is a lot of players started their journey at a young age at a well-known English club. Maybe not at 9 years old though.
No, I
Maybe
don't
not.
know. Like, yeah, I suppose. I think I know who my second guess would be, but I obviously can't. So
Yeah, reserve it. Here, we'll do some fancy editing. So neither one of you can really get the first hint. So I guess I'll move on to the second hint.
George Evans.
Well, okay, wait. So if you make a guess, the game's over. If you make a guess, the game's.
I go for.
Okay. So George Evans.
Yeah.
Okay, game is over. That is incorrect. It is not. But I'll do.
Gambling, man.
But I'll do the next question here. Okay. Well, I guess before, did you want to take a guess or did you want to wait for hints, SJ?
Oh, there's only two players I can think of off the top of my head. Mullen
Keep it
started at
going.
Liverpool
Keep it going.
really
You can
early,
win. You can win.
but I would think it would be super easy, like obvious guess, just to
Don't
guess our star
don't
striker.
don't risk it. Don't risk
Okay.
it. So what I'm learning here is that everybody wants to guess off of the first hint if you're right or wrong. This is the trend that I'm noticing. So I'm gonna have to adjust the game because the people have spoken. All right. Hint number 2. This player scored a spectacular long-range goal in 2018, which was later named goal of the season.
Well, I should know that one, shouldn't I? But yeah, I think we go for the third question, the third clue, please.
Well,
Can I
know
ask a
who it is
question?
now.
Can I ask
You-
a follow-up
yeah,
question?
you can ask any questions.
Are they still on the team?
It's current
Are they
player.
current
This-
player?
yeah, this is
Luke
current
Young.
player.
Luke Young
That's
is
your
my
guess.
guess, because Leighton and Luke Young, I think, are the only two players left over from 2018. That's my guess. I'm out of guesses.
Yeah, I didn't say which team they scored the long range goal of the season with.
Oh, that's why I asked if it was a current player. I don't know.
Well,
All
no,
right.
this game is for a current player. So you're like, is this a current player? Yes, they are a current player. That is correct.
But the goal of the season was not for us.
Oh, I can't clarify those questions. You just have to wait for another hint. You're,
All right.
This isn't hint number 2, part 1. No, would you like to go for another hint or do you want to lock in your Luke Young?
I don't know. I'll go for another hint.
You fool! It was Luke Young. You should have stuck to it.
Oh man.
Luke Young.
Luke Young it is.
You really had me discouraged that I was, because when you said not for our team necessarily, that I was like, well, then it's not Luke Young because he was playing for us then.
Bill, who is Newport?
That's an interesting one. Newport, where do I start with Newport? So Newport is a city about a 20-minute train journey away from Cardiff. I don't know how many miles it is because I've only ever gone through it on the train to Cardiff. I don't really tend to make many trips down to South Wales purely because the public transport system in Wales is absolutely garbage, and it's easier to get to England's capital than it is Wales's capital from Wrexham. I think, an American could look at the way sort of, if you drew a line as the crow flies from Wrexham to Newport or Wrexham to Cardiff, you'd think that shouldn't take too long at all, but it's absolutely atrocious how long it takes to get there. And you wouldn't have, without wanting to be disrespectful to people from Newport, because I think it's a city that is incredibly similar to Wrexham. If you weren't going to watch the football there, you wouldn't have a reason to go. It's one of those sort of places. It's too close to Cardiff to justify going all that way and not going to Cardiff instead. And it's also so similar to Wrexham that you like. There's a big brewery from a company called Tiny Rebel that are pretty cool craft ale company. But other than that, like, it's just your average rundown British city that's not had enough funding from a conveyor belt of poor governments, is downtrodden, and even has that little bit extra of, if we're going to get a little bit political, has that a little bit extra disadvantage of being Welsh, just like we have, and kind of even look down even further. So we're two sides of the same coin in terms of the actual places. And I think that might be why there's so much animosity between us and them, which we will get onto, I think.
Ooh, yeah. You gotta love fan animosity. I, like you, watch the cheesy reality shows with my lady at night. I don't, but you do, so you know more about that than I do.
But I don't generally. There was one that we watched, that Married at First Sight, but other than that, I don't watch any others.
Yeah, which is one more than me. So you're the expert when it comes to reality dramas. You did say one thing that I can't ignore. You mentioned a good brewery in Newport. So yes. What kind of beers do they make?
So Tiny Rebel make craft beers, but I used to love them. They they've got this beer called Club Tropica, and club spelt the Welsh way, so it's a bit of like a play on the Club Tropicana thing. And they just do like juicy craft ales basically, but they also do like Christmas stouts. And
Ooh.
next time you're here around, we'll have to try a few.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, say less is
Yeah.
is what is what I will lead with and finish with. Like you had me at burr and finished me with air. So that is all you need to say. If I need to make it to Newport and there's no game going on, don't know if I will yet. But if there is a match going on and I'm going down there, then I'm gonna have to stop by. It's Rebel?
Tiny Rebel, yeah.
Tiny Rebel. Hold me closer, tiny rebel.
You can get them pretty much anywhere in Wales, though. Like, well, and in the UK in general.
Nice. Well, it looks like somebody actually might have figured out how the video and audio works. SJ, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Hey, SJ, you made it.
Hey, yeah,
Hey,
hello.
We can hear you. We can see you. Thanks for plugging back in. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but it looks like it's smoothed out and you have the wonderful background, fully Wrexham. And I think I retire now and give you the crown and walk away. So you missed a little bit. We were talking to Bill. He gave us a small introduction into Newport, but of course, there's so much more to know about Newport. Bill, was there any matches that we should highlight between Wrexham and Newport?
Yes, several. Where do I start? We've got genuinely there's a lot you could set me off on a huge rant on a footballing point of view. So if you guys want to go through what you've got through first, it means that I can cut down anything I've got to say, and then we can. Do you know what, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what's a good idea is the idea that Bill had. And the idea is that I'll give a little bit of information from what I found because it's short, it's sweet. SJ will give a little information, and Bill will fill in with what time we have since he has a lot of match knowledge from Newport. A little spiciness, a little tastiness, a little bootlegger classic, if you will.
I think as well, just before we do get onto that, like just to give a bit of a taste for it, it's luckily one of those like I wouldn't call it a full-blown rivalry, but it's like a mini rivalry that I know pretty much the significant history of it because it all happened since I've been supporting Wrexham, which has not happened a lot on this show. So that's why I'm kind of like, I know Che wanted to be on at one point, but he's ill, so he couldn't make it. He's got a little cold, nothing serious, but it's to put it in the realms of Chester and Shrewsbury might be a bit unfair, but it's probably in that lower category, like Tranmere Crew sort of level. So, but we'll get onto it anyway.
Okay. Ooh, that's tasty. This is Christmas Eve. This is Christmas Eve in a podcast. I can't wait. Well, let me eat our vegetables first and get some Crest and Badge and name etymology. I'm going to kick off right with the name etymology off first. It's Newport. There's not much else to break down from that. It's literally Old English, which comes the Germanic language from where we get new, N-E-U-E, and just anglicized into what it is today is N-E-W, and port because of port or a harbor. And yes, it was. So not much to discuss. This is another. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd be dead interested to know, because I know a tiny bit of the history about Cardiff and Swansea as cities and how, I can't remember which was first of the two, but one of them was built as a port. I want to say Swansea. It was like a town that became a big port. And then Cardiff kind of built up their port as well. And that's where that rivalry begins, because either Cardiff or Swansea, I can't remember, but the merchants in those cities were stealing trade off each other. So it is a local derby, them two as well, but they've got that sort of like history. Now, where Newport fits into that equation, I don't know, but Newport is so close to Cardiff, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was just kind of just like that extra cut off trade from Cardiff. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit of like not quite expansion, but just another place going, oh, Sam, we'll set up down the road as well.
I wonder if Newport is like a brag where they're like, yeah, you guys have your ports, but we have the new one, so you should come our way.
Yeah, well, and evidently it had been a center for trade. They were in the steel works, so that's where a lot of the steel got exported from, was from Newport, and also why they used to be called the Ironsides, the old Ironside, tipping the hat to the old industry and trade. And I believe they were kind of like a suburb. They were like that satellite port to Cardiff, and that they were always in the shadow of Cardiff, and that the like formation of the team is part of that, trying to get their own identity that is separate from the big city that they're next to. And I believe 2002, somewhere around there, 2002, 2003, they actually did get the city designation.
Yes, they got that ahead of Wrexham. Wrexham and Newport were head to head on which of the two cities was going to get it. There was talk at one point that Wrexham had a good chance just because it was in the north and it would become the first proper metropolitan city in North Wales, but as is usually the case, South Wales got it instead of North Wales. But in fairness, it is a bigger place slightly, so I think we've got to give it to them slightly.
Yeah, they have roughly 150,000 people. I think that was a 2019 report, but that's roughly the area of Wrexham, if you include not just Wrexham proper, but the area of Wrexham, close around that same marker. So similar size.
The difference that Newport and Wrexham both counties as well as cities, but I think Newport has a lot more of concentration of the population in the city itself, whereas Wrexham has its city, but a lot of satellite villages, towns that are close in size. Like the northeast Wales is kind of like a miniature version of all of South Wales in a way. So the reason there was so much trade and in the ports in Cardiff and Swansea was because in the valleys, slightly north of Cardiff, there are huge amounts of coal mines. It's very rich in coal in that area. And we had that up here to a degree, but just not on the scale of South Wales. And it was the kind of coal which burnt really well. You could actually make a case for it being one of the epicenters of the Industrial Revolution happening, because all the coal that was being used to make steel, like in Newport, copper and all these other things, when they were being what's the word? It's not distilled, is it? I'm thinking of whiskies. What is it when
smelted?
Smelted, yeah, and refined,
forged,
and all that. A lot of that happened in South and North Wales, but especially South Wales, and that coal was exported worldwide. So it was mined in the valleys, transported to Cardiff, Swansea, Newport, and then transported to the rest of the world.
Wow! And so you guys all kind of had, not specifically you, but the Universal U were all part of like the same industry, just different parts, like different cogs within the same machine. And then so heavily dependent on that industry. So when coal started to be depleted or steel started to come from another place because it was cheaper, it impacted multiple cities, multiple towns along this infrastructure.
Devastated places like Wrexham and Newport in the 80s when the mines were being closed by Mrs. Thatcher herself. Less said about her, the better. But when all that was happening, it completely destroyed livelihoods, families, all these areas. And obviously that knock-on effect, you stop mining in the valleys, and Newport and Cardiff and Swansea have less trade to go out, and that knock-on effect on an entire country was huge. And there's a reason why Wales as a country has never, particular counties have, but the entire country all added up has never voted Conservative. But we'll leave politics for another discussion.
Yeah. I didn't like politics are fun. I don't know why we always leave them out. It's, like we couldn't possibly piss off anybody by talking about politics. I don't see the issue. I don't see the problem. But speaking of history between people and reasons to get upset, the rivalry you kind of touched on, and we'll touch on it more. They're so similar within their history of the club. There are distinct differences between Wrexham and between Newport, but they're currently fan owned, or I guess not currently, partially fan owned, supporter owned, and then they were recently bought out in September 52% by an investor, and now has controlling interest. So, but they were also, I think you said before, they followed in the model that we did with the trust, and that they formed their own trust.
I don't know the exact timeline, because as soon as they got promoted, I kind of stopped wanting to read anything to do with Newport as much as they physically could. But they did have somebody who won the Euro Millions, which is like a European-wide lottery that was part owner, and that's how they sort of rose from where they were to the National League, and then eventually to League Two. So I don't know. I know something kind of went on there, but I don't really know the details. Because, like I say, I try not to read too much if I can help it.
That's interesting, because I saw something kind of like, oh, your lottery millions, and I just kind of thought it was like implying somebody's just dumping money into the club. Not that it was literally from
Yeah, no,
a lottery.
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
You got to watch those insults over from the British people because they might sound like it's exaggerated language, but they're actually telling you. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's from the lottery. That's exactly why. That's where it came from. So if we look at their crest and badge, it's an updated badge. This kind of hints back to the reformation that they are now called the Exiles is their nickname. Originally, they were the Ironsides. They had a different logo, a different crest badge. They had to update it. So they went under in 1988. They went into administration, sold off everything. They said they even sold the players' kits, corner flags, everything to pay the debts. The fans wanted to start up a new team, started up what we know now as Newport County. The new badge that they came out with is quite simple. Do you guys want me to link it or have you?
Yeah, I know it.
You know it?
Oh yeah, I don't. I might have it pulled. Oh, is it the one with like the V on the shield?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Okay, so this one I couldn't find too much information on the chevron, that black V, but that is from the original chevron, and it has to denote something, but I couldn't find out what it is. So anybody in Newport, tell us what that chevron is, the black V. It's something military related, and like I think that it has to do with iron and the Ironsides, but it also might be symbolic of that bridge, that moving bridge that transports across the river, that large one in Newport. Could be. So somebody tell me more. I couldn't find if that was or what it symbolized, but there is an old football that is somewhat hard to discern, but you can tell some of the old stitching. And I guess they decided to use that old style of football with the old stitch pattern in 1989 to hint back to their roots of the club starting in 1912. So if you notice, it says 1912 and then 1989 and the Exiles. And so when they came back in 1989, they had also sold off the rights to the club, so they couldn't play on their old stadium. And so they had to go and travel, I think it was 84 miles away to go play. And for one season, they went off and played. So they were exile. They were invited back to play. And I forgot what the name of the ground was. And it's before they got to Rodney Parade. And they were at a ground. It might have been like an old ground. Somebody will fill in those details for me. But then they didn't get permission again to use it the following year. So then they had to play at another club. And this time it wasn't the same city. It was actually a closer town. But they also is something like 60 miles away. But they also had to play all their home games 60 miles away from home. And so they were truly feeling like the battled bastards of football, of this Welsh team that isn't getting, money and support from the English system, kind of left to the side. And so they changed their nickname from the Ironsides to the Exiles because they felt like they'd been exiled. They did decide to be not a part of the Welsh league and to join the EFL. And that's why we see them now competing within the EFL, where they used to compete within the Welsh league. And that's where some of the appearances that we would have seen against Wrexham before have occurred within the Welsh, because Wrexham Bill also played in like the Welsh playoffs, Welsh Trophy and Cup games in the past.
Yeah, so it's sort of complicated, and I don't think I could even really properly explain it myself. This feels like something that Mark would have to do because he'd have some kind of encyclopedic knowledge of exactly how it worked. But essentially, when football was first being formed in the late 1800s, there was no Welsh league. There was just regional leagues. So it would be North East Wales and the Cheshire League and I don't know whether it would be like a London league or whatever they'd call it, but every area sort of had a league, and eventually they were all sort of merged in different weird patterns. But there was no set English league and Welsh league, and a Welsh league didn't really properly come into place until quite a bit later. So even though there was a Welsh league eventually, it was much more lucrative to be still involved in the English setup just because the Welsh league was so young, I suppose, at one point. And we were, it's not like we were in the Welsh leagues and then all the Welsh teams are in the English setup. We're in the Welsh leagues and thought, oh no, we want to make more money, let's go into the English leagues. It's kind of like it was one in the same at one point, and then teams broke away and set up a Welsh only league. So yeah, kind of complicated. I don't really know the full details, but up until the mid 2000s, we were still playing in the Welsh Cup. So there was the Welsh FA Cup and the Welsh League Cup, and we've been all four of the big Welsh teams in Cardiff, Swansea, Newport, and us were still involved in the Welsh Cup until around then. So that's how Wrexham actually got to play in Europe in the 80s and the 90s, because they were winning the Welsh Cup and it entitled you to a place in the Cup Winners' Cup in Europe.
They were also known as the Giant Killers because they had faced some big teams and had some big knockouts. But before we get into the rest of those details, I think we've summed up the Crest and Badge. It's not complicated. It's another Phoenix club that is hinting back to their roots. So they have the two dates of when the original started with then the reborn club of 1989. And that's about it. They have their team colors and nod to the old football style, and then whatever the black chevron symbolizes. It might be that big moving bridge that they have out there that, one of those ones where it moves across and you can like drop cargo or whatever down.
I'm not sure. I genuinely haven't got a clue.
Yeah. The players, I guess, I don't know if they still do it, but at some point in time, as an initiation to the club, they would take the players onto that bridge to ride that like cargo thing across and back as just part of the initiation. I don't know if that's something they still do today or if that's something from the past, an old relic.
That seems like a pretty harmless initiation. Like, take this bridge back and forth, not like jump off it. I thought you were going to say something like, jump off the bridge, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out if they're still doing that, if it's part of the tradition, or if some things like with COVID, if it went away. I don't know. But speaking of traditions and things, SJ, you were mentioning something about a garbage field or a trash field or something like that?
Yeah.
What was that?
In too long ago, forgot what season. But they got to, in the FA Cup, the last 16 of the teams, and drew Man City for their tie. They had their match with Man City, and I watched the highlights from that, and it was pretty bad. They were not able to keep up with Man City on the pitch. They were just balls flying by them. But I mean, still that's a I think admirable tie to get Man City, and they're pretty stoked about it. They did not kill that dragon, but they played ball with it.
I think in fairness to them, they'd beaten quite a few teams on that run. I think there was a couple of teams that have maybe, could be wrong, but I think they might have beaten Leicester. I don't know whether it was that year or the year after.
Yeah, 2019.
Leicester were playing really well, so that was a great result for them. Did we play them that year, or was that the year after? Because we played them in the FA Cup when they were on a pretty good FA Cup run, and that was the last time we played them. It was 0-0 at home, because I did a charity collection, which I've only ever done it once, like a bucket collection for my old school, which was also a registered charity because it's a special needs school, and then went to a 40th birthday party in the Cent, which is a function room attached to the club. It was a bit of a bizarre day, but it was 0-0, and then they beat us in the replay. But I don't know, in fairness, I don't know if that was that cup run or whether it was a year after or a year before, but it was around that period.
So 2019 was that cup run with Man City. And so that was beating Leicester 2-1, winning off of a handball penalty, and then facing Middlesbrough next.
Yes, maybe it was the year before then that we played them, but I think they had two fairly okay cup runs in a row.
Yeah, so in 78-79, their cup run, they beat West Ham United 2-1, and then lost to Colchester in fourth round. But then
wait, SJ, that West Ham game, the manager was just absolutely dirty from Newport. They took out the light bulbs in the dressing rooms for the players from the opposing from West Ham. They also took out all the toilet paper, so the players didn't have lights or toilet paper, and they deflated the balls for them, like for practice. So they were doing everything they could to give West Ham a hard time, and they won 1-0. As you would imagine, there was rules about the standards at which a visiting team must have when coming to a club. So they did win, but they had some interesting tactics, if you will.
Oh,
I reckon that's where Tom Brady got his inspiration from for the old
Deflategate.
Oh man.
Well, they like teeing up into Bill. Bill, did you hear about their American investor that they had back in the 80s that drove them into administration?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, so they did have an American investor back in the 80s. So 1987. What is this guy's name? Jerry Sherman. So he's like a Wall Street guy, kind of a real estate investor. I don't know if it was specifically real estate, but it was some type of investing. He comes over, has the suits on, treating players, like paying for their dinner and their drinks, has them out all night, says he's buying the club, writes all these checks, promises the world to the club. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. The checks start bouncing. People aren't getting paid. Those £200,000 to renovate this never got to the contractors and to the builders. He's spinning this web. He's telling more stories about, just wait. Oh, when this passes here, what do you mean you didn't get this? And inevitably that falls on its face. When that fell on its face, it ended with them going into administration. That's what ended the club, was this American who came in as we're going to bring you up in the leagues. We're going to return you to where you should be within the system. You should be at the top, playing the top teams, and promised them the world. So they got burned in a way that Wrexham has got burned in the past, and they were burned by Americans, or specifically an American investor. And so they're a story of what can happen if you aren't cautious and you just listen to somebody who's promising you the world and you go along with what they say. And just like the trust, has had that back and forth in the voting on releasing the lease for the racecourse grounds, you do have to be very guarded with your team, because people could come in and in a matter of time, that team was there since 1912, made it through the war, made it through like depression and famine times, only to get ended by an American investor who comes in, tanks them back-to-back relegation, put them into an absolutely horrible position, and to come back, they're going to put safeguards into it to make sure that they don't get burned again. I could only imagine Rob and Ryan, showing up to the door, or people representing Rob and Ryan go, hey, yeah, there's a, American and Canadian that want to invest into your team and buy it. They'll, no, hell no. No.
It's that is one of countless stories of investors screwing football clubs. And unfortunately, I think there's a fair share of American investors that have done that at every sort of level. It happened even happened at Liverpool with Gillette and Hicks, Randy Lerner at Villa. He sort of promised the world and ditched them and almost got them into some really bad trouble until a couple of owners later who ended up rectifying it. Swansea have had problems with American ownership. I think the way a lot of people speak about Rob and Ryan is a bit misguided, but you can sort of see where there's a general distrust amongst the British public for sort of outside investment, especially when you can't understand why someone who isn't like a local businessman getting involved. It's suddenly like, well, why are they doing that? What's really there that they want? And I don't think there's a lot of things that Rob and Ryan want, but I don't think any of them are particularly nefarious. So I'm not worried, but I can sort of see why there's a general sort of distrust to it in the sort of British psyche. Plus, we're all cynical bastards, so that kind of adds to it as well.
Wasn't there a fish and chips for £1 or something that was a promise?
Chips for a quid.
Oh,
yeah.
Chips for a quid.
I don't know the difference. Is it a quid a pound also?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll like British people have a million different names for the same things and then don't have any names for others, if that makes sense. We're just kind of weird like that. But yeah, a quid is a pound. Yeah. No, Stephanie Booth, that's a whole nother story that we'd have to do like a whole episode on. That we couldn't even get started there, but yeah. So Newport. Shall I get into the juicy? Come on,
so Yeah, so Bill, lay us on some sweet and delicious Newport news.
So you've got to sort of understand the picture of Welsh football in general. Okay, it wasn't really until about 20 around the 2010s, maybe a little bit later, that kind of Welsh football fans became a little bit more united. You'd go to a Wales international game, and the Swansea fans would be over there, the Cardiff fans would be over there, the Wrexham fans would be over there, and then there'd be pockets of other supporters from other parts of the country. People would Swansea and Cardiff fans would fight at Wales games or travel into Wales games, by whatever measure. Cardiff and Wrexham fans would fight each other. Wrexham and Newport fans would fight each other. Rhyl and Bangor, two small towns in the North Wales coast, their fans don't particularly like each other because they're two kind of rival towns in the Welsh leagues. They'd fight each other. It was as much as I think there was people who were fighting were kind of in the minority, there wasn't always a good atmosphere at Welsh football. So you'd kind of think that for the big four Welsh teams that are in the English setup are Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham, Newport. And whilst I don't think there's a naturally big derby between, say, us and Newport and Swansea and Newport. I think that there's always like an added level of spice when the Welsh teams play each other. Some people might think, oh, well, you're all Welsh, shouldn't you be like mates? And you get that bit of patronising thing from the English, like a little rub on the head, like, oh, it's a Welsh derby. Oh, you guys should love each other. And like when Cardiff were in the FA Cup final about 10 years ago, they were all like, oh, the whole of Wales are behind Cardiff. And I was like, I'm fucking not. Most of us were like that, it was just like, just because we're Welsh doesn't mean that we suddenly support all the Welsh teams. It's not like that. I think of the big four, the least heated is us and Newport previously, until they beat us in the playoff final in 2013. Which kind of like, so they when they eventually got back into the National League, we were there. So we were the first Welsh club of the big four that they'd come across. The games were a little bit like, they had that, like I said, they had that extra little bit of spice, and there was a bit of fighting, and there's a lot of police around. I'm not saying it was a huge full-scale war or anything, but there was a bit of scrapping going on. The games had a bit of something to them. There was one game where it just makes me laugh even thinking about it. One guy in a purple jumper was just giving it to the Wrexham fans all game for some reason, and then someone just started ship purple jumper, and then that just went for the whole of the rest of the game, and this guy just got abuse, just loads of abuse. Like he went from being really like all games, just sort of stood there like that in his crap purple, his really shit purple jumper that he was wearing. A jumper's another word for a sweatshirt. I don't know if you say jumper over there, but we'll
say like a pullover or a hoodie.
Right. Yeah. So a jumper's just another word for a sweatshirt. And like that's the kind of thing that not many Newport fans will probably remember, but whenever you say Newport to somebody who's been following Wrexham for ages, oh yeah, shit purple jumper, and like it's just one of those things. I think even the Maes Gwyn are doing a shit purple jumper night on the day we play them on Saturday, so like it's like a charity sort of raffle or something, and you £2 to enter, and everyone's being encouraged to wear shit purple jumpers. So it was like that. It's like that. It's like had like that sort of like kind of like tastiness to the game. There was a bit of an atmosphere, but it was, I suppose, a bit more of a friendly rivalry in a way. I don't know. Maybe not really. It's kind of hard to judge. It got worse though, because the year they beat us in the playoffs, I think we beat them twice, or maybe we beat them once and then drew away. I can't remember exactly. We kind of snuck into the playoffs, and they were it was us and them that were like the two worst teams of the four. We were the ones that were expected to get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, because back then in the National League it was second, third, fourth and fifth, but you played 2 games against the team that you were up against. So Mansfield had won the league fairly. They had a bit of a battle like we did with Notts County. Not the same points total, but like, it was that close. On the last day, it was between Mansfield and Kidderminster Harriers. Kidderminster ended up losing on the last day to Stockport, I think. So Mansfield went up. They were playing us on the last day, actually. Then we played Kidderminster and beat them over 2 legs, but Kidderminster were the favourites to go through in the playoffs. So we went from being the least favourites to, oh, they've beaten the favourites. So now it could be like, Wrexham are starting to look like they're the favourites to go through, because we didn't just beat them, but we beat them like 5-2 on aggregate. So it was a real, we'd beat them 2-1 in one game and then 3-1 in the other. So we'd really destroyed them. That the Kidderminster away games, one of my favourite games I've ever been to. The atmosphere was incredible. But they'd beaten Grimsby, and it was kind of like two teams that were kind of even playing each other. And the atmosphere just kind of turned nasty at Wembley. The games have never been the friendliest, but I think just because there was so much emotion and so much riding on it, they'd been exiled from their ground that time ago, but they'd also been exiled from the Football League. They'd been playing in non-league football and in the English setup for years. They had a chance to go up, and we had all our financial problems and everything that was going on. And it seemed like it was a new era under the supporters' trust ownership. So we had a lot riding on it as well. And yeah, they beat us, scoring 2 goals in like the last 5 minutes of the game, basically. We had periods of dominating them. Brett Ormerod, who was a class striker, maybe not not having his best days for us, kind of like Stephen Fletcher sort of signing, really. He's like that sort of a good championship, premiership level striker coming to the end of his career. Missed an absolute sitter. And I mean, like he was about 10 yards from goal and he booted it over, and it was just like, that was about the 60th minute, and you kind of knew straight away then, like, that's our only chance of the game. That's probably gonna. It was that such a cagey game. It was really tight. Neither team giving much up, and yeah, they went and scored on a counter attack in like the 85th minute, and then scored it. It's the only time I ever walked out of a game emotional because I was so devastated. And as I was walking out, they scored the second goal, and it was like, right, that's it, yeah, game over. I kind of had a feeling leading up to the game. Maybe it's like the superstition that we've kind of talked before about, Ran, that Cardiff had gotten promoted to the Premier League. Swansea had won the League Cup. We'd won the FA Trophy that year at Wembley. Took 19,000 to the FA Trophy, and then 6 weeks later took 13,000 to the playoff final, which, considering we didn't have the success that we have now, was good. So it just felt like 3 of the Welsh teams have won something. It was Newport's turn to the other one. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like that. Even though we were we'd done well against them earlier in the season, it did just kind of feel like that. There's a bit of symmetry to all of that, isn't there? Unfortunately, and it just felt like it was their sort of turn to do it. And yeah, and there was a bit of scrapping after the game again. So I think it's just since then it's just been it's had that extra layer of sort of being heated. And I think even though we did play each other in the FA Cup in about 2018, we were at a bit of a low point and they were doing quite well. So it didn't feel like much, but now we're in the same league, like, and it's the first time we're playing against them, and it's 2 bloody days before Christmas. Jesus Christ! Like, I would not want to be the person in charge of the policing of that game, because I think it's going to be a nightmare, because people are going to be drinking from 11 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock.
A lot of people are going to be off of work.
9.
You know.
Well, yeah, it's a Saturday. It's Saturday, 2 days before Christmas.
Well, they know they're not going back to work. Like for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you don't have to control yourself. You can let it all out.
Yep. I'm kind of surprised they haven't moved it to a 12:30 kickoff, which is what they tend to usually do to try and stop the drinking. I mean, the drinking's still going to happen, but you reduce the amount of time that people have to get.
Yeah.
But nope, 3:00 Saturday. We have a thing in the UK as well called Mad Friday, which the last Friday before Christmas is usually when everybody goes out for a drink. But I kind of feel like there's going to be a fair amount of people that are skipping Mad Friday this year to do a Super Saturday instead.
There's going to be those warriors that are doing it all. They're doing that like World's End pub tour. They're gonna go Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a part of me that is kind of glad my baby's on the way, because it will stop me from getting too drunk myself and making a fool out of myself. Because if I had no responsibilities, I would not be remembering that match. Trust me, one way or the other.
I'm glad that something is finally controlling you, because we've been meaning to have this intervention with you for years now, and we're like, what would it take?
Of the pod today.
Yeah, this whole thing has been a ruse, and it's like, all right, well, Bill, here's your family and your friends. Everybody wants to tell you how much we love you, and oh, you're having a kid. Yeah. Oh, problem solved. He's He put a lid on it, folks. He's going to be okay. I mean, with the big weekend, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. Neil Williams talked to me before about the bubble and that certain teams against each other being in the bubble. Would this even classify? No, not close.
No, I mean, it definitely shouldn't, because, you know, they're going to have to travel 3.5, 4 hours to get to Wrexham. The last thing that they should be doing is bubbling that match and forcing people to have to get on a coach. But at the same time, no, there's nothing. No, I think it's not going to be a bubble, and it's going to be carnage. It's going to be absolute carnage.
Should it be a bubble?
No, I don't think any match should be a bubble. I don't even think the Chester game should be a bubble. I think it's an encroachment on people's civil liberties to be able to come and go as freely as possible. And if the match was policed effectively, there would be no need for a bubble. And I think that's the bubbles were really prominent at one point in British football, but it does seem to have calmed down slightly. The police don't seem as keen on it as they were at one point, which I think is a good thing.
What is a bubble?
So you have to travel on official coaches rather than being able to go on public transport or drive yourself. So in theory, it sounds like a good idea. But if you're, say, the only bubble I've ever seen is a Wrexham, for me personally, is Wrexham Chester. But if you're a Wrexham fan that has lived in Chester for the last 10 years, you'd have to drive to Wrexham to get on a coach to go to Chester, to get a coach back to Wrexham, to drive back to Chester. And you know, when your two towns are so close to each other, it is definitely, you know, doesn't matter where in the UK, there is definitely that cross-pollination, isn't there, between places. You know, could you imagine being a Newport fan who's moved up to the north somewhere, say Manchester, I don't know, somewhere like that, and you'd have to drive to Newport to get a coach to Wrexham, to go down to Newport. You know, it's like, it makes it like a 12-round trip or something ridiculous. So yeah, I think the whole concept's daft, really. But if anything, I think, it probably reduces the drinking. So ultimately, it probably reduces the amount of people who are fairly mild-mannered, who might get involved in some trouble because they're a bit drunk. But you're making the entire fan base angry at having to be on a coach or whatever, because they might not want to. They might not want to be on the coach. They might just want to drive. You might just be a dad and lad sort of situation. You know, there's just a couple of you in a car. You just want to drive there. You don't want to be on a coach full of people who are getting ready for a scrap, do you?
Yeah, and especially like with that drive, that's a long drive to drink. You're going to be that should, anybody that's coming up, would this typical thing, would somebody stay the night before, or is this drive up same day as type of thing?
I think because of the time of year, you're more likely to see people come up. Yeah, I don't think if it had been in the middle of February or something that you'd see that many people. But, you know, if you're a bunch of young lads and you fancy going up to Wrexham for a night out, you might go on the Friday and then come back on the Saturday, didn't you, rather than doing it the other way around. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, there's a chance, I think. But
so could there be some trouble on that? What is it called? What Friday is it?
Mad Friday.
Mad Friday. Before we run into some predictions, real quick, I'm going to play this short interview with Neil Roberts that I did, just a little bit on his views, and we'll go ahead and play that right now. Robbo, how the heck are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, Rand. I'm very well. Very excited for Christmas, and looking forward to chatting to you this evening.
Yeah, you know, I am glad that you're back, and you bring up Wrexmas, which I just have to ask, if first and foremost, if you were going to ask Santa Claus for anything for Wrexmas, what would you be getting for Wrexmas this year?
Oh, I mean, again, are we talking just from a Wrexham, the club point of view, or me personally?
Ooh, I like both of those. So you take it whichever direction you want. Okay.
Well, if we're talking me, then I think I know what I'm probably going to get, which will be the standard socks, and
yes,
I might even get some slippers if my eldest daughter acts upon my suggestions. And then for Wrexham, I think it'd be nice. Obviously, it'd be great to get maximum points over the Christmas period, but it's a real big ask. So, yeah, I would say, you know, if we can take 3 points against Newport on Saturday, go to Swindon and get a point at Swindon, I'm happy with that. But then go into the Walsall game on the 29th take 3 points there sets us up massively for a bumper game on New Year's Day. So I'm hoping for 7 points this in the next 10 days.
Yeah, and we've got it in us, so hopefully that prediction will reign true, if not more points. Minimum 7, and we'll be
Minimum
good to go.
7. Yeah, minimum 7.
Well, I have to ask the question because this episode is about Newport County, us facing Newport County. And Robbo, who is Newport County?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that form goes out of the window, in particular when you're involved in a derby game, which is what this is going to be. It's going to be a very, very competitive fixture against a team that are probably in a false position in the league. They've been probably, and rightly so, successful over the last few years in many ways, and they went on a really good run of form. I think it was 2 years ago under Michael Flynn, managers like that. So they've been a club that have obviously been in the league whilst we've been trying to get back in, and now we can compete against them again. And I'm sure the lads will be up for it. I'm sure Parky will make sure that they understand that this will be a derby game. It will be intense, and hopefully, like we said before, we can come away with the 3 points.
Yeah, that now Newport, for any of the American viewers or new fans to EFL or to Wrexham, is also in Wales. So this is the Welsh Derby that we get to see. Us new fans like myself, I haven't seen Wrexham play before. I haven't watched a game where they played Newport up to this point. But you yourself have faced Newport in the past. How was that?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're a completely different football club now. Obviously, back then they were in non-league, and we were in the league. So they're a club that I personally want to see do well. I don't on Saturday, but aside from our fixtures, that I wish any Welsh clubs well in the football league, because we're such a small nation compared to England that we have to look after our own, and where we can, we have to support them. And I think I think Newport will come here and they will acquit themselves as expected. They'll try and make problems for us, create problems for us, and I think we'll have to be on our best form to get the results Saturday.
How is Newport perceived from either yourself or people in Wrexham?
I think again, I don't think there's the if we talk about derbies, then our biggest derby will always be Chester. But obviously they're across the border from ourselves, and then you've got Shrewsbury who are coming up against us in January in the FA Cup. So those two are the biggest derbies. But then when we talk about Wales, you'll always have Cardiff will be number one derby.
Okay.
Because obviously the capital. Then you've got Swansea City, and then you've got Newport. So I think all Wrexham fans would regard this as a major game in the season from a derby point of view. I think it's great to have two Welsh teams back in the football league, and we've experienced what they've been through from that non-league sort of participation, and we don't want to go back there. We don't want to see them go back there, and I think that will go out of the window on Saturday. But as long as I'm sure they'll also bring a really good following, which speaks volumes about what their fans think about the game as well. So
one more shift of gears before let you get out of here. And so we're looking at the match against Newport, and inevitably the predictions come up. It's going to be a nice derby. Are you going to be so bold to give a prediction? And if you are, what are the reasons behind it?
I think we'll always score goals at home. I'm unsure a little bit about us kind of romping away with it. So my prediction for Saturday is a 3-2 win.
Ooh. Okay, so they're going to take a couple of them, but we're gonna get the 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody you want to peg? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. What was that?
Yeah, I think Mullin will get 2, and I think Elliot Lee will get the last one to win it.
Ooh, Elliot Lee makes it 3. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, don't want to hold you up anymore for your time. Let you get out of here. Thanks for the great prediction. And one more bonus question before one last question is, if you could play with any player on any team in history now or in the past, what player and what team would that be?
Oh, well, it'd have to be Diego Maradona.
Whew. Ooh.
Because for me, he's the best player.
Oh yeah.
To have ever played, and we probably have a good night out after.
Oh, that is it. That is an excellent decision. So you would then go travel across seas to go play.
Yeah.
With Diego. Oh man.
I'd walk there.
Yeah. As you do with your Superman skills, you could walk. Oh man, yeah. Diego Maradona, just an incredible player. I wish we had better resolution of clips to watch his plays, because he almost moved so quick and did things where the resolution of the cameras at the time didn't pick him up in the way that we can appreciate it. Yeah.
And his warm-ups were they're a thing of beauty. If you go on YouTube and watch his warm-ups for Napoli, and he's just unbelievable.
Yeah, which I would have inserted right here. Robbo, thanks so much. You have a great evening over there in Wrexham. Have a great holidays, Merry Christmas, and happy Boxing Day. I think it's going to be the next one that you guys celebrate that we don't after Christmas. Both of those, and have a great New Year. You take care.
Likewise. Thanks, Ran.
Okay, so yeah. Thanks, Robbo, for that. And hey, should we do some predictions?
Sure.
All right. Well, let's get underway. We're looking at Newport County. They're sitting 17th in the league. They drew their last game, lost, 1-1, lost. They are currently goal difference of -7. We are on the other side of that table. We're in third. Win, draw, win, loss, win. We've been doing pretty good. We're on a tear. I would think this is another one of those matches, but I don't want to get too bold ahead of myself. Thinks we should win this. This should be a win. It should be a comfortable win. I'll throw it out to you, Bill, first. How you feel about this?
Just looking at their record, it's so patchy. They beat Stockport in November, but have lost to teams like Tranmere that haven't been doing too well. So maybe they are one of those teams that do better against better sides. But our record at home is so good that I wouldn't want to bet against Wrexham at home at the moment. Head says 2-0. Heart says I wish I was getting drunk.
Well, we can arrange one of those things for you with certainty. It's gonna be rough, because it being that derby, the two Welsh teams, the similarities with having the American investor that burned them and them going into administration, coming back, trying to be their own team. They were recently bought by Hugh Jenkins and back in September, so they have a new investor that is trying to do things. They probably are looking at us as this is a route that they would like to go on the same success. That being said, they probably would feel pretty good taking home a win against not only the teams likes of Stockport, but also Wrexham, which they've had success with us in the past. And yeah, I don't know if I can go any more bold than Bill, but SJ, how do you feel?
I I kind of like to look at goal difference when thinking about like how competitive a team will be against us. They're even though they're negative on their goal difference, I mean, obviously it's 7, so but their goal difference is close enough that I wonder if they're, having trouble with being 17th in the table, kind of all over the pitch. They're having some problems. Or, because they're equally, I don't want to say bad, but they're equally troubled on offense and defense. They're having kind of equal trouble with keeping goals out with their keeper. So and then at the same time, I don't want to get cocky. I love going 3-0 just in general. That's usually my default answer. But I kind of I don't know, my brain says 2-1 for some reason. Wrexham win 2-1.
I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah.
I really want to get our goal difference back up there, because that seems like it's going to make or break our position in the table. For, where we only dropped down to 3rd because of our goal difference with Barrow. So I don't know.
Well, what's good is you don't need to be number 1 to get an automatic promotion in this league. So like the importance of having like the perfect season and taking a loss or taking a draw here and there, there's a lot more wiggle room, and we've seen pretty much everybody is vincible. They're not invincible. Mansfield has taken a loss as well, and when we played them, we looked all right. So I think we're in better form now, and we're facing some of the lower end of the table, and that should bode well for us. Should be a good confidence boost. I'm gonna go and say something crazy like 5-0.
Yeah,
5-0.
Get that goal difference up. I love
5-0. And the reason why is because I think this being a Christmas present to themselves, everyone is gonna go in there looking for a goal, and then they're gonna just set each other up. They're like, you know what? You haven't had a goal this season. You get a goal too. Phil Parkinson's going to score a goal. So this is going to be a goal-a-palooza. It's going to be the end of every Disney movie that you always hoped for. And if
the Newport fans get a hold of this and they manage to listen this long, I dread to see what the comments are going to be like.
No, let's be clear. They wouldn't have lasted this long. You wouldn't have stayed on. And if they believed anything that I said, they're the problem.
Yeah.
True, very true.
Yeah, like this is stupidity. If you believe it, you check yourself into the asylum. But yeah, I like always, any team that is on the lower half of the table, it worries me. It worries me. And like Bill, when we were looking at the last match and somebody tried to call out our lack of boldness on predictions, and they're like, they should be way bigger. It's like, no, realistically, these are dangerous. You can't take any game for granted.
They're tougher games to score in because they're games that make us look bad because they don't want to concede. So a team that is in a lower position will want to build from a base of, right, so they're in the bottom half or the bottom quarter of the table, really, because they're conceding too many goals. So their aim will be to not concede. And if you can frustrate a team, I remember an interview with Aaron Ramsey, a Welsh player, when Wales drew with Israel, I think it was, before we qualified for the Euro 2016. But we needed to win that game, and it would have only taken 1-0, and they just did not want to play against us at all. Like they just were just purely just trying to stop us from scoring. And he said in the interview, like, if you can't break these teams down in the first 20 minutes, sometimes it can be incredibly difficult to go ahead and win that game. And I just think I'd rather listen to what Aaron Ramsey says than someone who's going to come into the comments of our videos. And, these games can be really tough. So you can't count your chickens just because we spend the money. It's going to be a tough game.
Well, and it's not the National League. Like we've seen this in League Two, where there are teams that on paper should win and win handily, and they're not. It's the adage of like anything can happen or everything can happen. League Two is like this mysterious wonderland that I am not comfortable in. And I don't know if League Two gets any better, but League One gets any better. But League Two is where like nightmares can be formed, but also like the end of hero action flicks can happen where the underdog beats like giant sleighs and beats the top person at the, like, nobody's safe. Like, if there's ever a league that that I've seen, this is the no one safe league. League 2. You thought you were safe. I'm trying to think of the sequel to the movie that would happen after that. But yeah, it's a scary league. And I would never count out any team like Newport County. I'm going 5-0, and that's only because I'm a coward. I cowered to the comments of that one person who I don't remember their name. They bullied me into this. They made me and forced me to go 5-0. And yeah, so future reference, you could easily bully me.
I think the sequel's Too League, Too Furious, isn't it? That's how these things work, isn't it, usually?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Too League, Too Furious. Yeah. Well, everyone, this was a great preview. I learned a lot. So we went from a great journey of figuring out who Luke Young was through a series of questions. SJ dominating it, setting a new record with 2. I almost tried to throw you off, but I can't be dirty. I can't be the person that made you recant your correct answer and go into the next round. So yeah, round 2, you're holding the win. We also did get to look at some spiciness between Newport and Wrexham, and I'm excited. I hope that there's minimal violence, and yeah, if I don't get to say it before I see any of you again, yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Boxing Day, Happy New Year, Happy Ramadan, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Is there any more that happen in
Merry Wrexmas.
Merry
Oh, yeah.
Wrexmas? Yes.
Nice. Will it be a Happy Baby Day? When's your baby due?
Baby's due January the 18th, but there's talk of him being induced, not him, Joe being induced a little bit sooner, but we don't know yet. There's scans and it's a long story, but so it could be or it might not be.
Tell her to hold out till the 26th of January. That's my birthday. So, you know,
I think we'd be lucky if we get past the 26th of December, to be honest.
Schrodinger's birthday.
Yeah.
It is both happening and not happening at the same time, simultaneously.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's a good
thank you all
birthday
so.
present.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's another promotion year that your boy's born in. That's no matter where it lands. Well, thank you all. Bill, any last words?
Up the town.
Up the town.
Yeah. Up the town.
Get in.